to school.
Learning can be exciting and fun, or tiresome and boring, depending on the approach adopted. The first 3 to 9 years of a child, according to research and psychologists, are the most crucial for growth and development, and during this period, parents or guardians play an important role by deciding on factors such as the learning approach to use for the kids. Over time, two main approaches have been adopted by parents in Ghana to educate and teach their children: traditional classroom schooling and homeschooling. Usually, the typical classroom schooling is what many parents will opt for, particularly in today's world where most people try to balance their careers with parenting. Leaving one's child in the care of well-trained teachers at a preschool or beyond does the trick for them. The less popular is the homeschooling approach. Like the word depicts, children who are homeschooled are taught and trained by their parents, guardians, or professional tutors within the confinements of their home. Homeschooling is legal in Ghana, and although the number of families who opt for this are low, these numbers are increasing over time. Whatever the approach, however, the learning process is aimed at not only developing the cognitive skills of a child, but developing their emotional and social skills as well. So, to what extent do these two approaches enhance the learning process of children?
Education and socialization form the bedrock of development of every child. Now, over the years, various forms of education have been adopted to train or groom children. Today, we explore one of such forms of education, homeschooling. What do you know about homeschooling? We are doing a comparative analysis between homeschooling and the formal education, which is more viable, especially in the age in which we are now.
Dr. Obadele Kambon, a lecturer at the University of Ghana, has homeschooled all of his 4 children, from the youngest 1-year-old Ifia to the oldest 13-year-old Ama. Dr. Kambon has adopted his own curriculum and structure for teaching all 4 children, including language and hieroglyphics. Theirs is a typically traditional home, and like the traditional school setting, there is the morning assembly for prayers and the likes before each day begins. Dr. Kambon explained to me how the homeschooling approach to learning works.
Really comes from a paradigm of feeling like I'm a villager and these white missionaries are coming to enlighten us. Let me just give my child up. And we've never broken from that pattern. Even when we get more knowledge, even when we have the capability to now teach our children, we don't do so. But for my own children, we teach them Medu Necha. This is the world's first writing system in the history of the world, which was invented here in the land of black people, now known as Africa. Here on the board, you'll see that they've written the names of the days in Yoruba, Ojoaje, Ojoashegun, Ojoru. So they're learning how to read and write in multiple languages, right? Not just those confined to the neo-colonial cage called Ghana, but from throughout the entire continent. So they're learning Yoruba, as well as learning Chi, as learning Medu Necha, how to read and write that, as well as I mentioned, in the mornings we'll sing songs in Kiswahili, we'll sing songs in Dagare, we'll sing songs in Ga, we'll sing songs in Chi, we'll sing songs in Wolof, just all of these things. Now think about how rich their experience is compared to someone who goes and says, "Yes, teacher, yes," and the teacher will say, "Do you understand?" "Yes, teacher." "What you say?" "Debbie."
For over 12 years, Carla, his wife, has been helping with teaching at home. She uses methods including one-on-one teaching and playing with her children as students. Has it been easy or difficult?
Part of the job of being a mom, you're being looked at to, or as parents in general, we're the first adults that our children learn from. So I think there's no separation. It's part of the work of being a parent to teach. In terms of the subjects and learning and all those things, I don't know. There's something I can think of that a friend of mine who also homeschooled used to say, which is it shouldn't be that you feel like a stranger should be able to teach your child better than you can teach your child. So being that I've started with them from birth, pretty much, they're used to me being the one to provide them with the information, teach them classes and that kind of thing. So it's just an easy flow with I won't say easy, but there's a flow with understanding that mom is the one who's teaching me math today. Mom is the one who will be teaching me this, that, and science. So they're used to me teaching them, as opposed to a child who's used to a stranger. And then I think, for example, with COVID, a lot of parents started having to struggle with teaching their children because they weren't used to, having the experience, and their children aren't used to their parent having to learn these things from their parents.
For the Richardson family, the homeschooling method was adopted pretty early. Asida, their first child, was introduced to a word pronunciation DVD when he was only a month old, and by 8 months, he could recognize words and make sounds. After a failed attempt at trying the classroom system, they decided to withdraw their children and homeschool them. They told me how happy they are to have made that decision.
I remember when we decided to homeschool, we came up with so much, what would you call it? It was not backlash. Yeah, there were so many people, because they've also been educated in the normal system, so to speak, that were very concerned and almost challenging about, our decision making. However, we had that conviction to see it through, and I think once we started, the results actually spoke for themselves. We've actually had probably one of our biggest challenges, who are our parents, come back to us and say if they could have homeschooled, they would have done it the same way. And we always say it's never too late to go back. So we now have the grandparents. My dad's a mathematician. I mean, he reads maths like he's reading a book. He helps them with their maths, and my mum would also help them with their cooking and things like that. So as the saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. And I think that is really where you would get the best out of the next generation. You realize that it's not really about taking your children to a place once they're of a certain age and saying, look, I'm relinquishing my responsibilities to you, you raise my child and give them to me for 2 hours of the day, and that's it.
People say you blink and then in the flash of an eye, the children have gone, they've grown, and they've left home. And I wanted to say that, that journey, I have enjoyed it with them. Growing up myself, we went to school, both Abna and I, and one thing I found when I was in school, I didn't fully understand why I was in school. Everyone knows you have to work hard, you've got to try 10 times harder than the next person, and so on. But deep down, as now looking back and reflecting, I realized I didn't fully understand the reason why I was in school. So homeschooling allowed me the opportunity to input into the children to say, this is the reason we learn. We're not learning for certificates. By all means, certificates are good, but we're learning to understand, and to understand the world we live in, to understand ourselves.
Check up. I don't watch what they want. Into your boom. So, okay. Yeah, and I'm a fan Katianama. It's a beer, the answer. What it? Back on the inside, yeah? No. More, Patrick, so we need to.
Their story is a little different. The Apiatrem decided to venture into homeschooling, starting with their second child, after they discovered she had a medical condition that made it hard to cope with the regular classroom system. Through patience and constant nurturing, they saw results that were more impressive than they expected, so they roped in the remaining 3.
She has a condition, so she doesn't go to school for the whole 5 days. She only goes 3 times, and I thought she was losing behind, or she was behind because of that. So I was thinking how best I could help her so that she can have the full 5 days education to school, because she's not feeling well. And even after school, they were asking, oh, mommy, how is she? Everybody's worried about it. So we had a discussion. We decided, okay, let's try homeschooling. And we all agreed to do it. The 4 of us agreed. Just the little one who didn't want to, because she said she would miss her friends. But she's fine with it.
How measurable is this progress? How well have these children done in their respective fields? Homeschooled Ama Onyankopombo Ajagbayala, Diasizi, Diasilwa, Mpolo Lonungu, Sansigbe Kambon at age 13 gives us an idea. At her age, Ama knows about 5 languages, and according to her father, Dr. Kambon, she's ready to be enrolled in the university for tertiary studies. In my conversation with her, she told me she has a fully functional website where she posts articles and information about her career interests.
Sometimes it's really hard for me because there's so many numbers and letters. And, like, I'm doing algebra right now, so, but I think I'm doing well with it. And when I'm doing well with it, I enjoy it. Now I have my own website where I make videos, preparation videos, showing children how to make vegan food and showing them that vegan doesn't have to be a bad thing. It can be good too. Showing them that they can also make stuff as well. So I post like videos that are buyable on my website.
Aseda and Inshira Richardson, 12 and 11 respectively, shared their knowledge in culinary and entrepreneurial skills all through homeschooling.
It's very challenging. You feel like you made a breakthrough as soon as you break some. You manage to find different areas that you maybe haven't developed in, and it's also very intriguing to see how well you can be in maths. And for business, I needed to start my own business.
Yeah, what business do you want to start?
I would like to start a business for architecture and engineering, and also start a campaign to fix Ghana's roads and vehicles, promote Ghana's vehicles.
Okay. Inshira, how about you? What's your favorite subject?
My favorite subjects are maths, English, biology, and business. Maths, because when you finish one sum, you think, yeah, I've done really well. Then you realize you have like 15 sums. I like English because I've been learning about possessive pronouns and demonstrative pronouns and much, much more. Social studies because I learn about history, and I really wish African history was a part of all those books. And business, just like I said, because I need to start my own business.
And what's your business you want to start?
I want to start a business about bows and gymnastics.
It obviously has its good sides, but how does homeschooling impact on the social skills of these children? Positively? Adversely? Clinical psychologist Aku Hayfron gives perspective to the matter.
General school or public school or private school for that matter, he or she is able to interact with people. So they learn social life as opposed to the child who's trained at home, who is just with the teacher. So that when it gets to public life, he or she has a challenge in that area. However, when it comes to certain questions, it's easier for the child who's trained at home to ask those questions of the teacher than when he or she is at the school, when there are other people.
What kind of questions? How do you mean?
For example, things about self-esteem, things about who am I? I mean, because, for example, there could be a situation where the child could be teased at school. Okay? However, if the child is home trained, he or she won't get that teasing. Okay? So, there are pluses and minuses. And you have to take it from either both sides, depending on what it is that you want for your child. Then you decide how you want him or her to.
She, however, noted that with the provision of socially conducive environments, homeschool children should be able to adjust.
It's best when the child is schooled in an environment where he or she has others to interact with. I think that would be a good one. That would be a good thing to do, in the sense that the child will get the opportunity to develop him or herself before interacting with the world as a whole. And that would help.
Jalil Atson, who coaches Asida and Inshira, tells us more about his experiences with homeschool children and other classroom school children.
When I heard Asida and Inshira do homeschooling, I was like, homeschooling, I thought they were not going to be able to relate with the other kids, because most of the other kids that we have all come from the same school. So when they come to the pool, they're able to interact with each other. Then they know what they are about. They know. So in terms of social skills, I always kept a keen eye on them in terms of social skills. But the moment they came, they blended in. It was smooth for them. So my misconception about homeschooling, thinking, oh, when you're home schooling, there's nothing for them to do because they're just going to be home and do nothing. They don't even see people, they don't have classmates. Knowing that in Ghana you need to have classmates to have a wider circle, but they don't have classmates. So how are they going to be able to interact with the other kids? But it was smooth. They have really good social skills. They talk really well. They're able to interact with the kids smoothly in class and outside class with me, and it's compared to the other kids, actually, it's a little contrast, because they are even the ones who are able to come up to me and say, look, Jalo, can we have a chat about this? Can we do this? Can we do this? The ones doing the homeschooling. And with the other kids, just a few of them are able to walk up to me and just have a free conversation with me.
Other parents like the Kambons share how intentional efforts have been adopted to ensure that children are well socialized despite being homeschooled.
My daughter went to hang out with her best friends. Usually they'll do sleepovers or these types of things, but it's just making sure they have these opportunities. Kosia, she goes to African dance class, so she gets a chance to interact with others. And you know what we did prior to starting the school, this is before COVID kind of made us switch to online and do everything online, is that we would bring in all the people who are homeschooling their children as a homeschool collective, and then we had a agreement with the National Theatre, so all of the children are going to the National Theatre. Or we will go to Mofra Place, which is Prof. Sutherland Adi's place there in Jolu. So now they're getting a chance to learn about sustainability, all of these different types of things. So, you know, it gives them an opportunity, and it's all the parents, the children, so it's basically like a family fun day.
When we had our children, because we used to speak Tree with them, and it's always been their first language, reading, writing, understanding, we found they spoke Tree really well. So after a while, parents would compliment us on how well they spoke their languages, should I say. And we found that nobody else was speaking the language. Everybody else was teaching their children how to speak another language, be it Tree, be it English or French or some kind of foreign European language. So we realized that with other ethnicities, one of the reasons why they had so much trust and even moving forth to their economies was so strong was because they really instilled their languages from a very early age, and no other culture was superimposed on their children. So we thought, okay, maybe we can actually bring the community together, bring their children together and teach them not just their languages, but their heritage, their culture, their history. Because as they say, if you don't know where you've come from, you don't know where you're going.
In my research, I sought to understand how convenient the homeschool system is, particularly because of assertions that it may be a thing for expats and persons who are wealthy and can afford it.
Okay, Denise, that is share Liberia, come enum and Bako. When we started, Abena had a very successful salon in the UK. She was running a business. Myself, I was in IT for about 20 years. And initially, she made that decision to close the business and to focus on the children. And she felt the children were our greatest asset. And she wanted to invest herself, because she said, you know what, I can build a successful business, but if my children go by the wayside, all of it's in vain. So from there, we looked at our positions, our finances and everything else, and decided we had to accommodate and make changes. So yes, on one side, you lose an income, but at the same time, you can be be smart and work around things to ensure that you can do it. And I also help as and when I can as well.
For the Apiachiremis, homeschooling is not a reserve for the affluent and expatriates in the country, as is often perceived. Spera tells me why.
Homeschooling is rather economical because you can, when you buy a curriculum for a child who is 13, you can still manage that curriculum and use for the next person instead of buying another one altogether. So in a way, you do a lot of savings. And then even when you look at the normal school, they don't teach the children everything. They don't learn everything in their textbook. But with homeschooling, because it is you and you want them to know it, you don't jump over the subjects or they don't jump over their books. They do everything in the book from beginning to the end.
How well do homeschool children relate in an environment that is not their home? And how well do they adapt when they eventually join other students in the classroom? Loretta's mom has been training toddlers for about 4 years, and she shared her experience.
Because you're not exposed to other adults aside the parents who are within the home setting, it makes it difficult to listen to authority because we've only seen mommy and daddy. We haven't seen other, in case they have other siblings, maximum 4 or 3 siblings. You're only seeing those people around their environment. So having to come into the new environment whereby there are other more people who might have different traits, it makes it difficult mingling with them because they're a little bit shy or timid. Other children are outgoing depending on what their temperament. So it's a two-way affair. It depends on how the parents train them and how the children's temperaments are as well. But in some cases, in most cases, it's a little bit difficult for them to adjust within the normal environment whereby they see other children interact with other children as well.
With the growing increase in numbers of the adoption of the homeschooling approach by families presently, we find out how viable this approach indeed is. We're speaking to the Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asare, and hear what he has to say on the matter.
We have a straight-jacket approach to teaching in Ghana. So it's a fixed timetable, whether you are in a rural area where we know learning and learning outcomes is very, very low. Numeracy, literacy levels are lowest. And you have the same timetable for those in urban areas and peri-urban areas where considerably, learning outcomes are higher. Again, we have a fixed timetable for rural areas where children are walking for miles to school, get to school exhausted, get home quite late. We have the same timetable for students who are not walking to school in terms of doing miles, 5 miles, 10 miles a day, but then who are just commuting 500 meters or going by transport to school and do not get to school tired. So because of these rigidities in our approach to teaching and the pedagogy, people believe that having home-based learning or personalized learning is more efficient because the teacher is going to tailor their pedagogy, their instructional approach to suit the peculiar needs of the pupil.
Kofi Asare advises that parents adopt a blended approach to obtain optimum results. He knows that subscribing to both the homeschooling and regular education will increase the competitiveness of children.
The homeschooling is good because it provides an opportunity for customized teaching. Children's learning disabilities are identified, diagnosed, and solutions tailored, to solve the deficits. That is why homeschooling is good. The abilities of the child is unearthed, and then also gaps are equally unearthed, identified, and then they are resolved. But the environment is less participatory, it's less engaging, and offers very little space for creativity and competition. And so the true ability of the child is not likely to be unearthed or exhibited in an uncompetitive learning environment. And that is why a blend of homeschooling, and then the regular schooling is always the best. Unless, of course, if you have the opportunity of creating different platforms for mixing. Again, that aspect of competition, which is very, very important in letting children bring out their best, will be missing if you are doing homeschooling between one or two people in the family.
When I asked the Deputy Director for the Ghana Education Service, lawyer Anthony Boateng, about whether homeschooling presents a cushion for Ghana's education system with all its current challenges, this is what he had to say.
It can never be a substitute. It can never be an alternative. What can happen at home can only be a supplement to what is happening in the formal school system. Yes, you see, we need to put this in context. When you say that there are issues in the educational system, there are issues in every system, even including the developed world. There are issues. That is why systems evolve over time. So, but I do not believe that homeschooling is the option or is the alternative to formal schooling. I don't believe that. What I think, and which I don't have any problem with, is that the child will go through the formal school system, either private or public, and of course, the parents can provide some supplement at home if they are suited for it. Because not every parent who is literate and can, if even you are literate, you might not be literate in all the areas that the child is supposed to be exposed to during his formal school learning experience. So you can't do that as a substitute, but you try and supplement. There are some parents who can afford and will therefore hire teachers to even come home to come and teach their children. They will do that as a supplement. But I don't see how you can take your child and start teaching the child from KG1 to JHS, finish, write BC, finish, you teach the child at home from senior high school 1 to senior high school 3 to go and write WASI. I think that in our environment, it's in the minority.
With the ever-changing dynamics of the school system in Ghana, with the constant introduction and retraction of policies like the double track among others, amidst frequent strike actions by teachers at the various levels, it remains to be seen if the homeschooling approach presents a better option.
Have a dream in your life, never give up. Clean your shoes, pack up your books.